I started running regularly about a year ago. It was mostly to clear my head before work and to do something productive with my mornings. I live in a mid-sized town in Ohio, and there's a paved trail that loops through a wooded park not far from my apartment. It's well maintained and supposedly safe. Tons of early risers use it. That's what made this whole thing so unsettling. I usually head out around 5:15 a.m., just before the sun starts to rise. At that hour, the trail's quiet. Maybe one or two other people out there, but I rarely cross paths with them more than once. I always wear my earbuds, nothing loud, just enough to get into rhythm. But one morning, last fall, something changed. I was halfway through my second loop when I started hearing footsteps behind me. At first, I didn't think much of it. It's a public trail. Someone else must have just joined from a side entrance. I moved slightly to the right, expecting them to pass. They didn't. The footsteps stayed behind me. Same pace, same rhythm. I sped up a little, so did they. I slowed down. The steps stayed exactly the same distance behind. I even stopped to stretch, casually, thinking they'd walk past me, but nothing. The trail was empty in both directions. I remember thinking, okay, maybe it's just the echo of my own steps. It can happen on pavement, right? I even laughed at myself and kept running. But then I tried a test. I changed my stride, ran in short bursts, then long strides, then came to a full stop. The footsteps matched everything. Half a second delay each time I stopped. And that's when I knew it wasn't me. I yanked my earbuds out and looked behind me. The trail curved slightly uphill, and I could see maybe 30 yards back. No one. That's when I heard it. Breathing. Not mine. Heavy, labored breathing. Coming from the woods just off the trail. Not deep in. Like a few feet into the trees. It was still dark enough that I couldn't see past the brush, but I swear I felt someone watching me. I froze. The breathing stopped. I didn't run. I walked. Fast. I didn't want to look panicked. But my hands were shaking, and I didn't even realize I was holding my breath until I got back near the parking lot and saw other people starting their morning jogs. I didn't tell anyone right away. Honestly, I wasn't even sure what I experienced. Maybe it was in my head, but then it happened again. After that morning, I took a few days off from running. I told myself it was just to rest my legs, but the truth was, I was scared. I even considered switching gyms and sticking to the treadmill, but something about letting fear win didn't sit right with me. So I went back. This time I came prepared. I didn't wear my earbuds. I kept my phone in my hand, camera app open, set to record with one tap. I also texted my roommate before I left and asked her to check in on me if she didn't hear back by 6:30. It was cold that morning. The trail had a low mist hovering above the ground, and the lights along the path flickered like they were due for maintenance. I kept a steady pace, glancing behind me every so often. Nothing. But then, halfway through my second loop, I heard them again. Footsteps. They weren't loud, just deliberate, controlled, like someone trying not to be noticed. I hit record on my phone and kept running. I didn't look back this time. I didn't want to spook whoever it was, if there was someone. I veered off the main path slightly, pretending to tie my shoe under a small trail light, and held my phone angled just behind me as casually as I could. The footsteps paused when I did. I waited, and then took off again, trying to act natural. My heart was pounding out of my chest. When I finally got back to the lot, I got into my car, locked the doors, and just sat there shaking. I replayed the video immediately. At first, it was hard to hear anything over the crunch of gravel under my own feet. But then, clear as day, you can hear a second pair of footsteps. They're not in sync with mine. They're just slightly off beat, just enough to tell it's not an echo. And then, about 30 seconds in, you hear something else. A sharp inhale. Close. Like someone breathing just a few feet behind the phone. I scrubbed through the video frame by frame, hoping for a glimpse of whoever was there. And for a moment, just a brief flash, you can see a shadow. not full-on visible, but something stepped behind a tree just as the phone caught the edge of the trail. I felt sick. I showed the video to my roommate that night. She got pale and insisted I call the police, but what could I really report? Someone might have followed me? No face, no voice, just footsteps and a blurry shadow. Still, something was off. And the next time I went running, it got worse. I didn't run for almost a week after watching that video. But the fear, it lingered. Every time I walked to my car in the early morning, I checked over my shoulder. Every time I passed a wooded area, I found myself listening for footsteps that matched mine. Eventually, I decided I needed closure. So the next weekend, I went back to the trail. This time during the day. I brought a friend from work with me, a guy named Marcus who lifts and used to run track. He didn't buy into the whole someone's following me thing, but he agreed to come just to prove I was overreacting. We went around the same loop, this time at noon. The trail was way busier than I'd ever seen it. Families with strollers, cyclists, dog walkers. It felt completely different, and that's probably why I almost missed him. Marcus and I had just rounded the bend where I remembered hearing the breathing by the edge of the brush when I saw someone sitting on a bench across the trail. Hoodie up, hunched forward, hands in his pockets. Nothing too unusual, except he was staring. Right at me, not at Marcus, not at the other runners. Me. He didn't move. He just tracked me with his eyes as I jogged past. And I swear, I recognized him. Not his face, just the shape of him. His posture, something about him clicked with the silhouette I saw in the video. I stopped about 20 feet ahead and told Marcus quietly, "That's him." Marcus turned and the guy immediately stood up. He didn't run, didn't say anything, just walked, slowly, back down the trail, the opposite direction, toward the parking lot. We followed at a distance. He kept checking over his shoulder, but never acknowledged us. When we got close enough, I snapped a few photos of him. He didn't stop me. He didn't even seem surprised. Almost like he expected this. That night, I finally filed a police report. I gave them the video, the photos, and a full description. Turns out they had received complaints in the past, mostly from women about someone lurking in that area before sunrise, but they'd never been able to identify anyone. Until now. A week later, an officer called me back. They'd identified the man. He'd been caught on another runner's dash cam the same week I recorded my video. He wasn't homeless or mentally unstable like I'd imagined. He worked at a warehouse nearby, no priors, nothing on paper to explain what he was doing out there, except the pattern. He was always there between 5 and 6 a.m., always behind female joggers, always just out of sight. They couldn't arrest him for following people, but they issued a trespass notice and put extra patrols around the park. I haven't seen him since. I still run, but not at 5 a.m., and never alone.